Hi everyone, I'm Allison Kuo. I'm the program coordinator of SVA MFA Fine Arts, and it's my great pleasure to introduce my friend Azikiwe Mohammed, who's going to be giving the lecture tonight. I very vividly remember the moment that I met Azikiwe because I was in a hotel room in Mexico City getting ready for an art fair, and I had a giant suitcase full of everything from my studio, and I was starting to feel like that feeling of like, oh no, what did I get myself into? This is all a terrible idea, nothing's gonna happen. And then the curator had Azikiwe come into the room. He just arrived with like 3 giant suitcases. He was wearing head to toe pink tie-dye denim, I think. This is in my memory. And you started opening up the suitcases and you were just like, look at this camera. And I also think there was a typewriter. Is that correct?
No, it was one of the old school style CD players with like 5 outputs.
Okay, it was a giant CD player.
Yeah, it was way too large. I left it there.
Yeah. We all left with a lot more stuff than we thought we would from that trip. But I was just like, I had this moment of being like, wow, this person is definitely going to be my friend and makes art that I can tell I'm going to be really interested in what he makes. And I feel less alone as a weird artist with all this stuff, doing these complicated things that are hard to explain to others. I was like, here we go. And since then, I've gotten to see Azikiwe's work in so many different places. His shows at the Spring Break Art Fair, that I feel like 2017, the only writing about spring break was about Jimmy's Thrift. Show at the Knockdown Center. I've seen him interviewed by Kim Drew. I've read an interview that Claudia Rankine did with him in Artforum, and I just, I'm so excited to bring him here while he's still somewhat in New York before he's just all over the world all the time. We caught you at the right moment, hopefully. And I'll just read you a little bit more from his bio so you can get some background. Azikiwe Mohammed graduated from Bard College in 2005, where he studied photography and fine arts. Since then, he has shown these things in galleries both nationally and internationally. In 2015, he received the Art Matters Grant, and in 2016 was the recipient of the Rema Hort Mann Emerging Artist Grant. He is part of the collections at the SCAD Museum of Art in Harlem and the MoMA. Mohammed's work has been featured extensively in the press, including Vice ID, Artforum, Bomb, Hyperallergic, and Forbes. Mohammed has presented a number of solo exhibitions in venues including the Knockdown Center, Long Gallery in Harlem, Ace Hotel in Chicago, Mindy Solomon Gallery in Miami, Florida, SCAD Museum of Art in Savannah, Georgia, as well as multiple solo offerings at the Spring Break Art Show in New York. He has participated in group exhibitions at MoMA PS1, Antelina Gallery in New Orleans, Charlie James Gallery in Los Angeles, the John Michael Kohler Art Center in Wisconsin, and the Studio Museum in Harlem, among others. He lives in New York and has a studio at Modern Contemporary in New Jersey. And keep an eye out for his upcoming solo show at Anna Zarina Gallery in Chelsea, which will be opening on January 16th in 2020. So without further ado, please help me welcome Azikiwe Mohammed.
Thanks, Allison. That was quite a shining introduction. I think first of note, the Studio Museum and MoMA both never main room, always side room, right? Let's just get that out of the way first. It's only been recent as the witch hunt for brown and marginalized people has really ramped up that interest in what I've been doing has grown, which is wonderful. When the world collapses to the place you've kind of been hanging out in, it's wonderful to be able to greet the other people as they tumble downwards into a place that you know how to live in because you've been there for some time. The slide that we're looking at now is one portion of what I'm going to be talking about today in terms of consistency of ideas, in terms of taking something from concept to execution, and in terms of welcoming in those that are just starting on this journey in terms of acceptance, in terms of representation, and in terms of looking for answers when it seems like there may not be too many. So how do you convey information to someone that you have that they don't in a visual medium, right? That's sort of the whole question of art stuff. I'm not going to pretend to answer that. Real big question. But this was my attempt at doing so in 2016. Was most of this talk also is chronological. This is not, but again, good starting place. In 2016, I gathered a list of all of the brown unarmed people that were killed by the police. And I decided to try and turn this idea, these names, into something concrete that A, has intrinsic value, and that is a language that people can understand, whether it's something that they experience themselves or something that they've just heard of. So language systems, right? Now, the numbers next to all of the names, these are all the names of the people. When it says silver or gold, the silver is if they died from a gunshot or from a taser, and gold is if they died in police custody, right? Then in addition to that, the 15, so these are all styles of nameplates. This is the resultant piece. Let's go back to language world for a second. So style 15 is for tasers. Ages 0 to 20 is 25A. 21 to 25 is 12. Ages 26 to 30 is 1. 31 to 40 is 10. 41 to 50 is 43. And 50 and up is style 6. When it comes to nameplates, generally they are something that intrinsically in the item itself holds all of this information. You generally get one as a welcoming into a growner place, as a celebration of your life. It has your name on it because your corporeal form may vanish, but this physical item both is built out of the earth, out of a precious metal, and it's something that has to choose to be destroyed. Whereas you as a person didn't necessarily make that choice. You had that choice made upon you by somebody else. So when you see all of the different styles in this, color landscape, it's kind of hard to tell what's silver and what's gold. But for the most part, you find that most of the gold nameplates are for younger people, because when kids die in public, everybody freaks out. So they do that behind closed doors. The ones that tend to be tasers tend to be people that are in their 30s, right? You start to see these patterns arise. And if you give somebody enough information for them to be interested, the viewer, then they are going to try to figure out what this language system is, what this pattern is, related to circumstances in their life where they have seen nameplates as such, where they may have heard of names as such, because the first thing most people do is look for a name of a friend, right? That's an easy thing. You look for birthdays, you look for ways that you can immediately interact with this information that's being presented to you, but it's able to live past the physical item, because then next time that you see a nameplate in one of these styles and a style that's not one of these styles, then this is going to stay with you. And then it changes what the dialogue is for you in relation to your relation to strangers. And it tells you what they already know, that their life is disposable. Now, in this conversation, very frequently are brown women left out, are trans and queer friends vanished. So what does it mean to re-include them in this same conversation? Instead of the celebration of life that the nameplate is, the airbrushed t-shirt is something that generally happens on the later side of your journey, right? When the person is no longer here, then the shirt will carry on for the person. The shirt can be worn so that the person then, the wearer then becomes said person. You can have multiples of that made, but time is spent on each of these. The time that has been taken from the person gets put back into the item and then shared out amongst whomever said wearer may be. And on the top of the hanger there, it's super teeny, you can't see it. That's why little extra, a name ring of the person of the approximate size that they would have been when they passed. So you gotta put a canary in the coal mine. So Sandra is a super easy one, right? Most of us know Sandra Bland, I'm assuming at this point, right? Some slight nodding of heads. Cool. Megan Hockaday is a trans lady killed by the police. And then to sort of round it out, so these are 3 from a series of 17. And then this is Ayanna Jones. She was 7 years old when the Detroit police threw a smoke grenade into her home and then started firing, and she was killed on the couch in her house. Because what happens when outside isn't safe? You go inside, but what do you do when inside isn't safe either, right? So I have my questions sort of laid out for me, but what is a format that these questions can land in that's going to make sense? If I made something for me, you could come visit it, you could come see it, you could come to my house and it would be my house and you'd be a visitor, but it wouldn't be our house. We have to build it together for it to be able to work for me in as equal an amount as it will for you. To do that, you have to ask. So I came up with this town. I guess conceived is a better word, because people have used the word imaginary to describe New Davenheim before. I'm not a giant fan of that description, because it's not an imaginary town. It's the names of the 5 most densely populated black cities in America by census data, which we know is a very interesting metric, is the word that I'll use, but the people that are kept out, as well as the people that are included, paints a very clear portrait of a place in a way that not much else can. So those 5 cities are New Orleans, Detroit, Jackson, Birmingham. Wait, I have to do it in order at a certain speed, otherwise I forget. It's New Orleans, Detroit, Jackson, Birmingham, and Savanah. Pardon. And I was workshopping it around. I sent it to a friend, and he was like, "Hey, do you speak German?" I was like, "Oh, I don't know. It's not really a language I'm very familiar with, Peter." What very loosely translated in German, New Davenheim comes out to a new home for now, which is very curious, given that that was the idea, because each of these 5 cities originally, as a single unit, was seen as one of these places. When you look at the population of New Orleans, when you look at the population of Detroit, the numbers leapt from one year to another. Now, if you go from a place that is, let's say, 15 to 16% black, to all of a sudden, like Jackson, that's 94, that's an exodus. That means a large group of people weren't being served somewhere else and wanted to be served somewhere else, so they went to another town. But if there's more than one, it didn't work. Now, what work or not means, I don't know. But I do know that the consistency, hey Dave, also, thank you all for lending me your time. It's really nice. Time and eyes and ears are the most expensive resources we have, so I just want to say thank you. Dave helped me make these postcards as well as a lot of other stuff, so thanks. In order for me to ask the people from these very real places if this is something that might work, if as a single unit where things didn't work as well as they would like to, I'm very hesitant to use the word failed, but if it didn't work as well as they would like to, maybe as one cohesive unit, it would work. So the postcards were a way for me to ask. The prompt on the postcards that I ask before somebody fills one out, in the form of a memory of your visit to the town, write something that you're not getting here that you would like to get somewhere else. For people that have had to think about another place, that's not too hard. For people that have never had to consider another place, they generally just look around the room and are like, I wish this room had a window. It's not, so it self-selects, right? And from the collection of all of the memories of the visitors to the town, you can start to see what the place actually looks like. Now, what is a space that can hold all of these ideas? A library of sorts for a town, a thrift store. Now, if you have garbage in your home, it goes into the garbage. But if there's a sweater you were given by a person that you care for, your stack of grandma's infinite cards for every holiday, there's the items you just can't actually get rid of. You're not gonna go 40 miles over to the next town. You're gonna go wherever the closest shop is and drop them off, because they are memories that you don't need, but that shouldn't not exist. Now, when everybody from a 30 to 40 block radius is all dropping stuff off in this one location, all of a sudden the location becomes a collection of the past stories and memories of those people. I'm just gonna roll through some stuff, but not every single memory is what that same populace who's shopping at that store needs to move forward. The only things that sell from the store are things that that same population group need moving forward. So in one location, you have the past memories and stories and the future wants and needs of a town. What are those items? You got, neon signs. This was for a beer that I tried to make, which I did actually make later. We'll get to that later. Photos, clocks, lamps. I'm a big fan of flowers on everything, everywhere, because they're one of the few items you can hand to somebody that says, hey, congratulations, or I'm sorry. And it works in both directions. Flowers and candles are able to hold both of those spaces. I try to stick Easter eggs in whenever possible. June 1st, 1921 was the wiping out of Black Wall Street, like the Tulsa riots were, I think, June 21st actually, but June 1st, the American government firebombed this town and just completely leveled it. So this is actually, it's big here, but it's actually quite teeny. Just hidden in the shop. Anything that has time stuck inside of it is something that people will put inherent and intrinsic value onto, because it's easily relatable to their own lives and their own circumstance, and they can say, that took a long time to make. That must be important. That would have taken me a really long time to create. The longer it takes, the more important it is. I'm sure all of us makers in here have heard the question, wow, how long did that take to make? Never ask that question to anybody. It's fucking horrible, pardon my French. But it's a metric that is easily understandable by everyone, right? So if this shared language, if these visions and these objects that are in this shop that are curated, because all of the items come from what people said on the postcards. So I'll take, because the postcard format's short, so people have to make kind of short, one or two, they end up being kind of poems of sorts, right? Sort them out into groups, you see what people's needs and wants are in terms of, you know, being seen or feeling safe, or like a place that I went to go eat. I went to go to Sammy's Fish Shop. The food was really great. The service was really wonderful. I was served fast, because sometimes you're not served fast, and sometimes you're not served at all, and then you have to go to another place to eat. So these sort of simple daily tasks that point, that up bracket to these larger circumstances. If none of that makes any sense, if it's still hard for somebody to physically see themselves in the place, then that's why I make the mirrors, right? Because a painting is a sculpture that stares out at you in one direction, whether you're there in front of it or not, right? If I leave the room, it's still going to be staring in the same direction it was that you made it, whether the person is there. No person is needed to complete a painting. So if you are able to look at a painting, but then insert yourself into the act of looking while you're looking, and in the room that you're sitting in, you can physically see yourself not only in the experience, watching yourself watch the experience, but the entire room now is part of that experience and belongs to you in a brass tacks way. Because inclusion is costly and awkward and should belong to everybody, and sometimes you have to force it by putting tigers on mirrors. The pizza boxes on the bottom are from when I had a pizza store, as sort of an extension of this, like an earlier version. Those were, I was imagining like dad going to the Y once the kids are gone to college. So he like takes a drum making class, and then they just like sit in the closet forever until his friends come over, and he's like, hey, you want to see this cool thing? Right? Because like those, if you provide enough information, then people can create those stories. So there's a bunch of photo albums that come only as donations from people that come to the town, that come to the shop. If you can't see yourself and you want to insert yourself, then please, by all means, like literally put yourself in the exhibit, and then other people will flip through. And then there was one picture on the, where's Kim? Oh, I don't have Kim. There was one lady that came to actually this version of this. This was in a urban foot mall, there we go, in Jamaica, Queens. And I was in the top kind of security booth area, which was very warm. I originally thought it was gonna be 2 weeks, it was 2 months, it was terrible. Sometimes the thrift store is art, other times it's just an actual thrift store. So people would come in, they would ask what the sale days were. They would just drop their kids off and ask if they could come back later. So then it became daycare, and that's fine, because follow the needs of the people that you're speaking to. And if you're gonna say yes, say a full yes, not a half yes, right? So then by the end of this, the kids, we were reading Malcolm X's By Any Means Necessary, and I figured I'd just let the parents have that conversation as their payment for leaving me their kids for 8 hours. So a larger version of this in a much more art circumstance, this was at the Knockdown Center. And if you're going to make physical space for people to mentalize themselves somewhere else, make actual physical space and then hand it over to other people. So some of the items carry over. I try to make new items. If somebody buys something, sometimes it's at prices, unless this lady was like, sale day, Thursday. What is it, like $200? Fuck, okay, sure. She didn't come back, otherwise I would have had to sell it to her for $100, because again, those are the rules set by the people, and that is more important than me saying that it's mine. It's not mine, it's ours, right? You have to make sure you speak with, not for. So I try to get each place to make one large item that I can drag to the next one. So this is the giant Jimmy's Thrift sign. It's currently in the repair shop. And then that's me, right? I'm Jimmy. Now, when you're thinking about like your safety, about your comfort, that shouldn't have to come back to me. That shouldn't have to come back to one person. That should belong to you. So I wear a wig, glasses, the wig's my grandma's actually, ties, suit jackets. This is actually the larger part of my closet now, or just Jimmy's clothes. Because I speak the same, I talk the same, there's no real difference. I answer to whatever. I answer to Jimmy on the street now, which feels weird. But it's enough of a visual cue that people can make up a new person. And the longer I'm gone, they turn this person into whoever they need it to be for their own uses to complete what that picture is. And then I completely vanish and I no longer exist because I shouldn't have had to in the first place. I'm just a resident, the same as anybody else. So since the Knockdown Center has a booze license, we made some beer, which was super sick. This was the label for it. I ripped it off of the old Narragansett can. And then we sold it in a whole bunch of stores. It was amazing. I was drunk off my own beer for 2 months, best 2 months of my life. Because nobody felt right charging me for my own beer, which was great. But the main reason that it had to be some sort of digestible is because you go to a show, it's great, you see the thing, and then you go, hey, what are we doing afterwards? Let's go get a bite to eat, let's get a drink. The circumstance is left where it grew, but it doesn't come with you anywhere. What if the place that you went to next, it was waiting for you? It was still there, right? That drops the brackets off of art and then makes it part of what your daily life choices are and what your regular living circumstance is. So clearly it was at the Knockdown Center. I made custom beer steins that all got stolen, which was great. If somebody steals something, then let them have it. I guess they want it. And then in this back area, this was, in the daytime, a reading room. We've got the books on the table. But then also, it turned into a performance space. So I got Allison to come out and try out a performance that, at that point, I don't think you would try it out yet, right? This was like an early version of this.
Very early, yeah.
Very early. This is 2017. So literally handing the reins over to other people that don't have the space or that are trying to make some form of change, whether in themselves, in the work. There was a music night. It's great. This guy did this like stand-up song, right? Is that Joseph? It's hard. I didn't know. I had no idea what he was gonna do. He was like, I need a speaker, I need a microphone, whatever, unreal. This was another circumstance where it was the least art thing ever created. I got given a thrift store that said Mimi's Thrift Store, so I just put a J and an I in front of it, and then it was Jamimi's. For 2 weeks in Miami, people would come in, like, hey, you guys still selling cigarettes? I was like, no, but also, do you want one, I guess? That's fine. Also, do I look like the old shop owner? Because if so, I really want to meet that person. What's going on here? So this was another circumstance where if you make the object strong enough that has its own story, if you make enough space for people to enter the conceptual space that you're trying to offer them, be wary that you might get erased from that space and make sure that you're okay with that. And if you're doing this type of work, then your concern shouldn't be you to begin with. That's the inside of the store. So the thrift store is not the only establishment in New Davenheim, because you don't say, oh, you went to New York? Yeah, I love the Empire State Building. That's nonsense. There's a lot of other buildings. So there's a lot of other businesses. So I'll try to sort of coax and guide one until it's good enough. and then step back because it doesn't need to be me, right? It's not me. I invited a writer to a show that I had recently. He walked in, turned around, walked out. Guess he didn't like it. That's fine. And I wrote to him. He wrote me back from the outside of the show and was like, I made it. I was like, what? I just didn't know what was happening. I was very confused. Turns out he didn't recognize me without the wig on, right? So sometimes vanishing can really shoot yourself in the foot, but you gotta do it. So Jimmy kind of set. He's locked up. I just passed off Jimmy recently to these two 20-year-old white ladies in Savanah. They just took the rings because it doesn't need to be me, and they have it figured out, right? Give it to somebody whenever possible. But the two other places, there is a park, T.T. Davis Park, Nat Turner, Harriet Tubman, and Angela Davis Memorial Park. And the other is Armor Photo Studio, which is a free photo studio, which we'll get to a little later. So I made the outside of Jimmy's, which is closed, and then see at the bottom there we've got the beer signs. I was just gonna do Arizona, but I was like, redoing Arizona feels weird. I'll just leave that to Supreme. That's fine. And then as you pan over, then you have the rest of the park. So then the people that are sitting on the benches, you've got somebody grilling out there. There's some trees, and then there's there's CD players sprinkled everywhere so that you can listen to either, depending on where you are, which headset you pick up, you can listen to the testimonials from the people that are sitting in the chairs. You can hear some of the park audio. And what the people are talking about is what is a good day? Because again, a very low-level ask, but for some of us, it might be a little taller than for others. And it's hard to imagine that something so simple can be so complicated until you hear what the other person's version of that complication is. So Pauline, is the lady in the video, was one of the installers for the show. And she's talking about how she wanted to do art and she wanted to be involved. So I was like, well, I need another person made. You want to make a person? So she made her, and then that turned into herself, which was funny because then she started making changes to how she felt like her body should look like in this circumstance, which tough. But there's no reason that I needed to take control over what is a public park. If she wants to sit in the park, then of course she's more than allowed to. So then trying to see if this idea can hold in these spaces. If physically the space is different, if the needs are different, if the location is different. So the last one was in Arlington, Virginia. This is at a place called Elsewhere in Brooklyn. So since you can't have full bodies of people because there's not enough space, then you just put chairs so that physical people can actually sit. And since the headphones are weird because people are gonna get drunk and steal them, I made a 17-minute audio loop that kind of swung around the room. The really, really cheap stereo audio tricks. That was the idea of Elsewhere. Everybody's welcome, no hatred, relax, but you're still at a bar. You're still at a giant club. So giving them the offer to fulfill their promise to their target audience is the idea of the park. So I thought it would be a perfect fit. And then the larger version of, again, my obsession with flowers, the larger version of the park happened at my show at SCAD. So the thrift store is kind of a survey, so it covered a very wide breadth of work. So the thrift store is on the left, the bridge over the river here with our little duck friend. If you're standing on the bridge, there's running water playing through a speaker coming out under the bridge. Because so many times when you go to these shows. We're talking about painting, not needing somebody to be in front of it, only being able to see something from one specific angle, a particular point of view. The bridge literally allows you to step above and then look down over everything at whatever your height is, which then gives the show to you because it's at your height. It's at whatever your vantage point is, not the one that I chose for everything to be hung at, right? So the bridge connects the two New Davenheim spaces because not everything that I make fits within this general landscape. So thrift store over here, you can see the park goes over that way. And then we have, that's a different person. That's not Pauline, that's my mom, because she has to say yes. So I was running short on time, so I forced her to do this. She wasn't pleased, but it was fine. And there's the neon shoes hanging from the tree here. The paintings, I try to make so that they need somebody there to solve this issue. So the neon grill here, you see these shadows that are kicking out to the back this way. The shadows in the painting are cast from where the grill is if there's a person that's standing here. So the actual perspective of the painting doesn't work unless there is a person standing here. It's not complete until a human walks in, right? So cheap parlor tricks. So that's the painting, so you can see it a little bit better. So this is a life-size neon dinner table. There's a bunch of forks because it animates, so people are actually eating, right? That's sort of the clearer view because everybody being able to make it home on time to eat isn't very common in many households, right? I didn't know that people sat down every night to eat until I got to college. I went to a friend's house. And I was like, wow, you guys do this every day? It seems tiring. These run out of words. But these smaller moments are still things that should be celebrated, should be advertised, and should be illuminated, which are all of the words that one would use around said format, right? So then these are some more looks at the show. That's the painting that I made. The painting normally comes with a bunch of, like the shadow is completed by a light that comes on top, and then there's a bunch of clippers, barber clippers that go over there that came from the dude in the painting there. So this is one of the only really straightforward paintings I've made in a while, but I find it very entertaining. That's why I added it here. It's a quick anecdote. So it is called Two Porters, and I found a large collection of photographs outside of my home neighborhood of Lower Manhattan a few years ago. And it was clear that it was from a white ethno-tourist family, right? Now, they would have pictures of them holding up their bags, about to get on the plane, and in the scrapbook it would have like their tickets because they just went to some other country with a bunch of brown people. So this photo are the two porters sitting in the back, and then the photo that is directly under this is the white guy who just leapt in and is doing this. The one on the page after is what I'm assuming is his partner holding a screaming black child while the mother is just kind of like, this is what I'm told that I'm supposed to do. So these moments, these smaller moments that speak to time, right? How, when isolated, do they pull in each direction? And is that something that is going to be translated through my time and my care? And then trying to put that time back in here. He's got like a 6-page newspaper, right? Like he dropped one. That generally happens when you're like just getting through the like top portion of like the Sundays, right? You like do this for a while and you like do one of these, right? And then 2 cigarettes, one's out, one's going on. So we're looking at like an hour time span in here, right? So like, that's a reasonably long break. Maybe it's a very fancy place. Like these are things that trying to give enough hints to the audience so that they can fill in the rest of the gaps, or like, is that an American Spirit? If so, then this is gonna take 16,000 hours. Like, is that a cool? Because if so, then it's invisible and takes 0 amounts of time. Like letting somebody else add in this information so that they can finish the parts that you chose not to make space for them. So the other establishment that I had spoken of in this town of sorts is a photo studio called Armor Photo Studio. Now, most marginalized people are told what they look like, not asked. And then when handed back said final image, are told to be pleased that they were included, right? Most of us remember that, I think it was a CoverGirl ad where Beyonce was white. Like how did that get through all of the approval hands that they was supposed to go through? But like, be thankful, right? You were included, you're welcome. It's Beyonce, she doesn't have to thank you for anything. Are you kidding me? But even at that high performance level, still she's told that it's not correct. So the studio, it's free for anybody that wants to come. Physical copies, physical prints, because not everyone has a computer. And $5 isn't a very large amount to charge, but for those that it is, it's a very large amount to charge. So everything's free. Doing this project sucks because it costs me a very large sum of money, but that's fine because representation isn't cheap. Generally, you try to get somebody to help you out. That doesn't go too well because long-term projects, a singular ask is much easier than sustained funding, right? So when you're trying to put together proposals for things, when you're trying to get people to say yes to what you know is long, ongoing work, try to dump all the money into one giant sum up front. Don't forget to pay yourself, and then spread it out as the project continues. So this is one of the families that came, Letitia. We're gonna get back to her a little later. So these are all the people that came. This version is in St. Louis. So if it's a slow day, then I can get people their photos the same day. If it's taking a little longer, then I'll ask them to go have a bite to eat or come back or something. So Letitia is one of those parents that's like looking for things in the local circular at the grocery store to what's the art thing from. So she found that, and she was like, "Man, like, is this portable?" Yes, it is. The entire premise is that this studio is portable, because just because you can't make it to me doesn't mean that representation shouldn't make it to you. So I brought it to what she called a daycare center. It is not a daycare center. It's a 24-hour care center. The ages change as the day goes on, so it starts from like 0 to 3, kind of maxes out at 14, and then at like 2 a.m. a bunch of the 2-year-olds come back. So it's just this kind of circling, because what happens when you don't have anybody to hand your kid to, right? You gotta take them somewhere. So Buttons and Bows was what it was called. It's still in, this in St. Louis. And they really got their kids dressed up. Now, in the original version of this, I was shooting 4x5 and digital. 4x5 is for me, digital is for you. The 4x5 is for me, which you're also welcome to have, but if you want to wait until I process and scan, then sure. But if not, you can get the digital in an hour, right? And there's no limit to how many times somebody can come back. So when I hand them back their image, if they say, "That's not me, I'm coming back," of course, but I already got my one for me. So as the time of this goes on, it sort of slants into this, I already have whatever my 20 photos are, but like, we're doing full family portraits and studio shoots in a variety of different outfits. We're doing headshots. You're just gonna keep coming back. So with this circumstance, I was like, all right, I'm just gonna go into it. This has nothing to do with me. Always trying to remind yourself that. I didn't know that my camera was broken because somebody had smashed it earlier, because somebody moved my camera, and don't let other people move your stuff. So I was shooting dead the whole day. Looks great at this size, right? Considering the amount of post-processing. For those of us photo people in here, anybody images, right? Okay, we got a few, okay, cool. This is at ISO 100 f32. Technically, that's impossible. It can't look like this. I should have no depth of field. I should be able to see hairs and dust on the back of that image. But camera is shattered. So for my purposes, again, no use. But for them, I called Letitia, I told her, she was terrified. I was like, we're gonna have to reshoot. She sees them, she's like, oh, you're just a crazy perfectionist. Got it. But when she described the problems to me, she was describing what was actually wrong, but didn't know, thought that was intentional. I was like, yeah, I am a fantastic photographer. I clearly knew all of this before. So everybody I gave all the prints to Letitia. Everybody was beyond pleased. And then this lady, Jasmine, these are her 4 kids, was like, hey, I guess I got a new house. Feel like coming? I was like, not really, but I'm gonna say yes. Deanna Lawson, anybody? Right? We got a few, maybe? Okay, cool. The inside of Jasmine's house looked like a Deanna Lawson photograph, which was absolutely terrifying, but it was real. Brand new house. So I was like, yeah, we're gonna stay outside. This was my friend and curator, Catherine Simone Reynolds, when the mother left us with all of her children without saying anything for multiple hours. We tried to figure out how to entertain them. So we did a full shoot for Jasmine at her home, because we make house visits, right? So this is the outside of her home. Directly across the street was a very spooky circumstance. Just a bunch of dudes playing dice in the morning. It's totally fine. I'm trying to take some pictures. There's maybe like $30,000 on the floor. And then some dude turns over and he's like, hey, you taking pictures over here? I immediately dropped my camera. I'm horrified. Kat is like, if you get us killed, I will come back to life and I will kill you. But made it, yay. Because a lot of times the people that are in these circumstances, when you walk in with gear that looks like something they understand, then you're a cop, which is one of the reasons that I use a 4x5, because there's no hiding, right? It's a gigantic physical object. You can see me coming from a mile away. I'm inviting you to ask me any question that you have about my presence, about my intentions, about what I'm doing. If you want to see things, I will mail them back to you, because you have to make sure that the equipment that you're using matches your intentions. Otherwise, the people that you're trying to speak to is going to get broken and it's not going to work. The desired outcome will not happen for you. They will feel threatened and they will be even more worried about the next person that's coming in that may also have good intentions but may also not, right? So think about the person doing the work behind you. And if it means that your stuff's going to come out a little crappier, that's fine. It's going to come out at all, whereas it may not in a different circumstance. So these are a few from the original version, which was in Harlem at the Long Gallery in 2017. So I was very unprepared for this day. I was a family of, what was the full family was I think 22 people. Max I can fit 4, and then you start getting weird shadows. So 24 was not very fun, but that's what they wanted. And then they wanted singles of each of the people, and then each of the different families within the family. So in the end, they got a stack of, I think, 60 prints, which they came back for a few days later. This is a model that kept coming back for different headshots, because I changed the background every week. So she would come back every week with a different clothes for different modeling test looks. I've tried to separate myself from these circumstances for as long as I've been making stuff, I guess. But I wanted to see what it looked like if I was involved. If just because you're talking about something doesn't mean that you automatically are. And just because you try to exclude yourself to make space for others doesn't mean that you're not ignoring yourself, right? So trying to see if, if it would still work if I found a way to reintroduce more of a personal narrative while trying to address some of the same issues. So this body of work just came down, Los, 2 weeks? 3 weeks ago? Yeah. Right? Yeah, we had a spades tournament that Los destroyed me at. I'm still not too happy about that. That's okay. So the name of the show was Auntie Uncle Julius Welcome Always, because that sort of pairing of people is who I'm thinking about as the target audience in any circumstance. You know, the idea of the bald black man with the sort of tight-necked black t-shirt that's a little baggy, loafers, in a very internet circumstance, maybe those like weird brown grill shoes, like that dude, right? Like art's not for that person. They hate that word, it's disgusting. The black lady's got the short cropped with the full iron pressed that comes out, generally red, kind of slanted to one side, the people that aren't allowed in the room. If I make a circumstance in which that person isn't allowed in the room, I have failed. If I'm advertising for a show and I haven't managed to at least have it be on their radar, I have failed. And because that's the target audience, I always try to make sure that there is something that is free, right? Because nobody should be able to walk into a space and not be able to take a physical portion of that home. So often it's the postcards, sometimes I have pins. In this circumstance, we made magnets. So this is the idea of the basement space. We're talking about Ayanna Jones when she was killed earlier, sleeping on her couch in her home in Detroit. So when outside's not safe, when inside's not safe, then you have to make an inside within the inside, and that's the basement space. If your life is public, even when it's private, I think this is also where we get the idea of the Bluetooth speaker person, right? You know, see the like brown teenagers blaring whatever music outside of the Bluetooth speakers. These are activities that would normally happen in one's home. But if your home no longer belongs to you, if your home is public space, then public space, in the more traditional sense, is also your home. So then the activities that take place normally inside have to also happen outside, right? So it's a whole bunch of people playing cards. You know, you have some drinks. We got a bartender over here. But if that isn't, I had one of these basement spaces. It was in my grandmother's house in Westbury, Long Island. We didn't really play cards, just kind of listened to weird music that my cousin liked, I guess. Not I guess, that's what took place. But traditionally, I understand that there are often cards and drinks. So I made decks of playing cards, and we had a spades tournament similar to our friends here that are playing cards. All the people folded up and went on the wall, and then actual humans could then take their place and sit down and play with real decks of cards, collapsing the space between this imagined person and yourself, because you are now this imagined person, right? So that was one event that we had. Another one was a reading night. Now, often, I'm not somebody that loves surprises. I'm not against them, but a little funny to like We need to talk. Whoa, 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 whoa. That's a surprise. I don't want that one. Letter from the IRS. Oh, no, 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 no. But some surprises are nice. So trying to balance between the terror of an IRS letter or the unsolicited "we need to talk" text message. Let's offer the words that the reader is going to be saying back to the audience. So whatever the people were going to be reading, whatever their text was projected on this screen here so that we could read or sometimes sing along with whomever was up there. So it's, Nicole Cack is the one that organized the whole night. That's Peter B.D., Khalil Jabad Huffman, and Lex Brown were the three performers for the night. She sang us some really wonderful songs. In the photos, these actually work out really well. I made these stupid wooden beer cans like a year ago. I didn't really know where to put them. But for this, it turned out fantastic. What a pleasant surprise, right? Never throw away that one piece of garbage in the back of your studio. You're gonna really need it later. And remaking it feels really dumb, right? So get a storage unit somewhere you won't ever look at. So yeah, that's them. This was the first time that I felt very personally involved. It didn't feel bad, didn't feel wonderful. It definitely felt more difficult than normal because it was modeled on something that was a daily personal occurrence for me and not something like somebody being shot, which is something that has happened but doesn't happen in my life on a daily basis, right? Whereas I would be at grandma's house very frequently. So trying to figure out ways to say yes to yourself while you're also saying yes to other people, and then hoping that somewhere in between that space, a dialogue about moving forward can happen. Right? That's it. Thanks.
I remember going to the Long Gallery to get my portrait taken, which was a very beautiful moment, and I continue to use that as my official portrait. But I remember just feeling the amount of care that you take with the people that come into your spaces, which feels like such a crucial part of everything. And I guess my question is, oftentimes with a social project, you run the risk of kind of using people as a raw material, which I don't feel that your projects do at all because of that care. And I want to kind of know what are the kind of thought processes that you go through when you're coming up with a project that involves other people, and it's kind of difficult to think around those kind of issues sometimes.
Fantastic question, right? I gotta use the cord and jump rope, right? I move the thing. I feel like it's a reasonably simple answer that I'm gonna overcomplicate. So if I overcomplicate it, correct me and ask again, please. I'll do a part 2, right? But as a starter, think about a need that you have. This is like if you don't have a project, right? This is literally just from scratch. Think about a need that you have and how you would like it to be addressed. I'm not gonna say fixed, I'm not gonna say solved, but addressed. You've had a lot of time with that issue. So you've probably thought about, if I hit the lottery, if this person gave me a house, if I got a car, a lot of it, when you start to really look at what the problem is, a lot of it breaks down into tasks. Accomplish the tasks, and then what's left is what the actual issue is, and then that's where the work is, right? My job doesn't pay enough. If you lived above the place you worked, then it'd be easier to take a lower, right? So if you had a faster car that like knock out, I'm not saying move or buy a faster car, but I'm saying look at those things, look at those tasks, write those out. And then once you can start wiping out, like, well, I can't move, but if me and these 3 other people carpool, the cost comes down, that goes back direct. Because then once you have all of that solved, then it's, oh shit, this job sucks. That's your problem. The problem isn't that you're getting underpaid. The problem is that the job you're doing can't pay you enough to do it, right? So in these social circumstances, the thing that we as the makers are able to do, that a lot of people that share this problem with you, that aren't you, don't have the time to do, is accomplish those tasks. Because those tasks can become our job, and you make it your job. That photo studio in Harlem, that was the entire summer. I was there every day from what? It was like 10 to 6. Sometimes it was longer, never shorter. It's tiring. Some days nobody came. That's fine. Show up. Show up, do the work, accomplish the task, take that off of someone else's plate, and then they will tell you what they need. And then your next job is to listen and then accomplish that second set of tasks. Because if you keep wiping those out, by the time you're at task 4, you're probably already taken care of. Like the need that you had is long gone now, right? But when you get to 5 and 6, you're probably gonna find another thing for you. And also, if you can't be fulfilled by accomplishing a task that somebody else has asked or not asked for, then you have another problem that you need to address that can only be addressed within you, and that's something else. Because the idea that there are limited resources is completely made up, but the idea that some people have more resources than others is completely real. And if you are having a hard time handing over yours to someone else, this isn't the place of work that you should be in. Okay.
I mean, this is just a quick follow-up, really. Listening to you talk, I mean, you're clearly very wise, and you're clearly very wise about human beings and what makes people tick. I mean, what is it that motivates you to keep doing this?
I'm one of those human beings, right? If something sucks for you, it's probably gonna suck a lot more for someone else. Why not take care of that? I would wish somebody would do it for me, so you have to do it for someone else. But it's like I was saying to Mark earlier, karma is not a bank that you deposit into, because you deposit something in there to take it out later, right? Just put it in there and it goes away, it's gone. If it comes back, cool. If not, doesn't matter. You do it because you're supposed to. That's what humans are supposed to do. And like I said, you know, the other part, that my ending part to Los, is if you can't be fulfilled by that, you need to figure out how to, because that is the thing that all humans are built originally to be able to do, is to fulfill the needs of those of the rest of us around us.
That's a super cool answer, thanks.
Thank you for your time. You're a very eloquent speaker, I must say. I just had a technical question about your neon lights. The addition of it, do you make them? Like, how's that happening?
You want to take this one?
Well, they come from Mexico still, or?
For the most part, yeah. Yeah. I make most of them in Mexico. It's cheaper to fly there, make 5, stay there for a week, eat and drink like royalty than making 1 here. At this point, I've been doing this for 6 or 7 years. What most people are charging you for when you go to these deeply knowledgeable institutions is help, but that's not even the word. Finishing services, right? You show up with an idea. You go, Bill is cool. Give me this, but big and blue. Like, what? What shade of blue? What do you like? I tell Now, that's costly because you're asking them to make something for you. With is always cheaper than for in every circumstance. So at this point, I know the rules. I know how bending works. Bending yourself is one of the few circumstances that it's not cheaper to do it yourself than to pay somebody else to do it, right? So I design it, I do all the wiring. So I just get a pile of glass, and then I'll do all the finishing services. So for the most part, I can just go to whatever local sign shop in whatever town I might be in, hand them the drawing that they would need to make what I'm asking for, and go, oh, yeah, I'll just give this to whoever, sure. I'm like, here you go, $100? It doesn't matter because you're not asking them to do anything. You're asking them to accomplish a task, not to complete an idea. So most of the big stuff, I'm still in Mexico. Small stuff, wherever.
Thank you.
So in a way, I feel like one of the things you're doing is modeling a kind of ethics in your work. What?
Cross my fingers.
Oh, well, so yeah, I mean, that I would say has to do with a reciprocity or a kind of mutual give and take relationship with the communities of people that you're working with. So, like with the photo booth, you're meeting a need with the skill you have and equipment you have and all that, and they're getting something, but also sort of you're getting something, right?
Oh yeah, totally.
So, so that represents an ethics that has to do with mutuality, reciprocity, and the deep motivation, as you put it, is kind of, you didn't use this word, but it's kind of like service, and there's a kind of humility to it, like, why am I here? To help other people, in a way that is sustainable for me, I think.
So ethics is a weird word because that starts to get into metrics of good and bad, and that can get a little muddy, right? So trying to stay out of the mud as much as possible. What do you say, mutually something?
Mutuality and reciprocity.
Love it. Absolutely love it, right? I'm gonna take that one.
Yeah, I'm using the term ethics not in the terms of contemporary morality, but
right,
like
right, but
ancient philosophical traditions where it's like how to live right.
Right, but again, that last word, that starts to get back to good and bad, right? And that gets, because example, example, right? So at the opening for the photo studio in Harlem, there's a lady that comes in, clearly just neighborhood lady, waving her phone around, screaming for a charger. I'm shooting, and I can hear she's about to get kicked out back here. So I stopped and I was like, ma'am, why do you need a charger? It's like, I don't have what your phone has. Otherwise, I would just say, here, just take the thing. I don't care, it's fine, take a seat. And she's like, well, I want my photo taken, but I don't have the money for it. And it was great, it's like I paid her to say that. The gallerist had been trying to get me to charge something because he felt bad about not giving me money to do this, right? His guilt was getting in the way of her being allowed to be in the room. So I turned to her, slightly panned so he can hear me very clearly, who said anything about money, right? Because he is correct that $5 is not a very large sum of money. But she is also correct that it is a very large sum of money. So much so, took a picture, very happy, never came back to get it. A month later, going to White Castle across the street, and I see her. It's not July 4th. Was it even July? I don't even know. She's wearing a full, like, American flag thing, right? Like, do-rag, red and blue braids, like a whole thing. And I go, oh, excuse me, ma'am, I think your name was Shannon? She jumps back, and I was like, whoa, hey. No one's cutting you in line, no one's trying to fight. Remember that photo you took? She'd completely forgotten. Because as soon as she left, that monetary amount was reintroduced into that circumstance. Because she's been told that she's wrong about that so often. It didn't matter how loud I said it, she was going to be wrong until somebody proved her right in a tangible circumstance that she could hold and point to. Because photos should be objects. They shouldn't be these whatever things, right? So I explained it to her. I walked her across the street. I made extra copies because I felt like she might want some extra copies to just kind of, right? So she got 3, lost it. Never seen somebody more happy in my life, right? Close to tears, I'm trying to keep it together. I'm trying to keep it together now. Really difficult, right? Because for what appeared to be, I don't know, one of the first times somebody had turned what was a yes for her, a no in public, into a yes in both circumstances, right? And that's that mutuality. These shared ethics, because ethics is generally a group of decisions agreed upon by a certain batch of people that you can do something, right, hold on, yeah, hold on. This is what I'm explaining what my answer is, right? Right. You've got 50 people, they all agree on this and that, so that you can just make whatever decisions you make with this thing that you've all sort of agreed upon that makes it all easier. Now, in this circumstance for her, walking into that room held that. When I'm trying to do work along these lines, I'm trying to stretch the agreements made in these rooms into larger spaces and spread them into other rooms, right? That's what the goal is trying to take what you've been told is a logical no and then represent it to you as a logical yes and give enough evidence of it being a logical yes that for other people for whom it was no, it may also now be a logical yes.
What can you speak?
Wait, up.
Oh, sorry. Does this really work?
It's for the camera.
Oh, I love that. Okay, great. Great. So you speak as aspects of your work or just projects and pieces in general as like essentially social tools of some kind. But I'm interested in hearing you talk about the aesthetics you employ for these tools specifically, and perhaps like an aspect of play in your work that also is used, maybe not directly as like a social tool, but is that used to make yourself, as you said, disappear as a mark in your own art, or is just speaking to the actual visual language of your art?
I'm gonna try to answer those separately, even though they're all very good friends, right? Pardon. In examples like the thrift store, it's very easy to vanish because there's such a wide variety of items. It's hard to believe that one person would be responsible for all of these things. So the question often isn't who made these, but where did these come from? And where points to a location. The location being the name of the town. So trying to visually make objects that speak to a certain visual language that some people can understand immediately, right? Make the visuals, make the space that you're working in share the aesthetics of your target audience. If you, as we were just saying a moment ago, if you pull all of the decisions made in this room into this room, then the people that were here, this is where your target audience is. This is the room that they're in. If you pull the language, whatever exists here, into this room and they walk in here, they immediately feel comfortable, they immediately feel safe. If I'm trying to explain something to somebody and I have to, an explanation is 1 to 10, right? If I have to explain something 1 all the way through 10, because you have no idea what I'm talking about, it's going to take a while. We'll get there. Now, if we can start at a 5, because I've already answered 1 through 5, just based on the shared language that we already have. The decisions that if you see me make 2 of, you know you've already made the same 2. We can just jump to 5 immediately, which means that we either get to 10 much faster, or 5 becomes 1 and we can get a lot farther, right? So what happens when people that weren't in this room come into this room? That's when you have to sort of reach into these broader, more developed languages and aesthetics that maybe aren't necessarily in your wheelhouse. Maybe isn't something you feel comfortable making. Trust the person that's been making it their whole life to just make the thing. Don't ask them to make it, ask them to help you make it. This is what we were talking about with the neon thing a second ago, right? All that jewelry comes from a dude named Tito in the Diamond District. Most of those nameplate styles, he made up himself back in the 70s and the 80s. He's been doing this. So when I showed him what I wanted and how I had it laid out, there was a poster on the wall. And he was like, oh, like you've actually done your research. Oh, he reaches under the counter. Also, he only came out later. Cecilia's the lady that you speak to in the front. She reaches under the counter, pulls out a suitcase with a whole bunch of different nameplates that are not for whoever is not walking in here. Because I walked in at a 5. So he was like, if you came in at a 5, well, if that's the case, then let's, right? So when you don't have the aesthetics to solve that problem, trying to find the person that does and then trusting them to take you the rest of the way, right? And it helps if you're in the room if you like check out, because then you can see like, oh, that works, that doesn't work, that's cool. That's why I try to be present in the installations as much as possible, just so I can A and B it, really. And then strictly to aesthetics, if it doesn't look good, no one cares what you're saying. It's not gonna happen. It has to be attractive to some degree. Flashy, pretty, well-made, terribly made. It has to catch and hold someone's attention, because the longer they look at it, the more the thing is gonna sit in there and stick with them, right? I aim for 38 minutes of interaction in any installation that I make. Sometimes I nail it, sometimes I don't. Generally, we get pretty close. The Savanah show was a really fun example. People walked into the room and then just didn't leave. They didn't know there was any rest of the museum. So the museum had to put up signs that said, please leave. There's other exhibits outside of this one, right? That means you had something that visually you were able to offer people. And when they stayed longer, then they started to catch some of the other stuff. And if what you're offering them is fun, there's no reason that just because you're talking about stuff that might be a little heavy, that you can't also reward people for their gaze and for their thoughts. Because everything's heavy all the time and it sucks. It's painful. If you don't shy away from how painful it is, but add something that'll put a little bit of a smile on someone's face, there's no person on the planet that's not gonna smile when they see a little bit of gleam coming off some gold, right? Super easy. So if you can build that into what you're making, that's why I use gold a lot. It's just a super easy icebreaker. If you can add fun to the language from this room and then pull it here. If there's no fun in this room, take the language, add fun here, give people something to do, literally, not even an element of play, but let them play. Let them pick up stuff. Let them move stuff around. When people touch things, it belongs to them. Let people actually play in the circumstance. And when they're using their body to understand it, then it belongs to them in a way that it couldn't in any other circumstance.
Thanks, Azikiwe. Hi. I'm wondering, you spoke to wanting people to feel welcomed or at least on the radar, and if you haven't done that, then you've failed. And I'm curious if you have felt like you've ever failed, and if you could speak to that and lessons learned.
Yeah. Oh God, that's a lot. That's a big chunk of time. I'll speak about my most recent gigantic failure. The photo studio in St. Louis. I was trying to reach however many people I could in the area. The organization that brought me out was really great. They're really supportive, but it's just really long-term, endurative, performative work that takes a very different ask from a staff when they were already dealing with literally 27 other artists. It's a lot of work, right? So I was like, okay, putting out physical flyers on this street isn't enough. I have to go farther. So then I went to all the grocery stores, all the laundromats. Then a little ripoff, right? But man, an out-of-town number, what does the out-of-towner want from us? Got a flip phone, local phone number. Swap them out. Okay, maybe, a few people. And then people would call, and they say, so how much? I was like, no, it says free on the thing. But visually, when you're looking at it, it was designed poorly so that like the yellow went back and you just saw photo studio and you barely saw the words free. More flyers. right? So what, and then what do you do when there is no B, right? Because like you A and B test something. You've got a batch here, you've got a batch here, you're like, this is wrong here, I'll fix it here, and you just swing back and forth between both. But when there's only one batch, how do you know when you're wrong, right? You're wrong from the gate until someone tells you you're not. So I'm always wrong. And just because you got a yes, I think I said this earlier to somebody. And we did some studio visits to see a lot of us friends here. When you get a yes from somebody, just because you got one yes doesn't mean that it's correct. Find another yes. Find another one. I asked everybody in this room. Great. What about the room next door? Keep going until you get to a no. Address that, build that back in. Now you've got an A and a B. So I'm literally always wrong and always being proven wrong, which is taxing and tiring, but that's part of it. You know, like if you can't be okay being told that you're wrong, or taking something off the wall if it really is messing with somebody, that's fine. Because then ask them, what would you rather I put up? If they have an answer, let them put it up. Make it a group show. It doesn't need to be a solo show, right? And then see if that answer actually works. Because if so, you've been proven wrong. If it doesn't, that doesn't mean that they were wrong. It just means that they were also looking for an answer. Because the idea of wrong means that there's also right. And that is where most of those problems come from. So failure, I'm okay with as definitive a word as a lot of these other words that I've tried to swirl away from. Because failure means that you're looking for something and it's not good enough yet. That it's not finished yet, that there's more work to do. Whereas success means the work's over. Failure just means that there's more. And more is always okay.
In your work, I noticed, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's this overarching theme of private and public. And I guess what I'm wondering is, how do you invite and convince people that this space that you built with your own private memories and experiences is something private to them too?
I try to make sure that it's not only built on my memories, but that it's built on shared people's memories. And then I try to be present so that if I got it wrong, if I missed the mark, then you can tell me. I'm there for you to literally tell me to my face, I don't feel cool here. And then I go, okay, why not? Let's try to figure this out. Now, clearly this is harder in institutional circumstances, but there was a lot of push and pull with SCAD. They, towards the end of it, really, super supportive the entire way, but after seeing so many people come through, and then feedback, that's what the postcards are for, mail me back something. Make that channel of communication open. If you're talking only about your own personal circumstance, there's no need to be concerned about if it's private for you and private for somebody else. There is no private. Private doesn't exist anymore. It never really has, just a smaller audience, right? But in the current landscape that we have, there is no private at all. And we're starting to see that more and more. I think that was like one of the first things I said. There's been a bunch of us that have been down here for a long time, and as things collapse, everybody else is starting to, right? These privacy concerns are often very new concerns. And as soon as you accept that nothing within you is private, maybe less public, but not actually private, then you open yourself up to accepting all of the shared public from everyone else. And then you can make stuff with all of these other people. Because if privately you know that you're right, then everybody else is going to be wrong. But if there is no private, then that means that right spills out and everyone's right. So then why wouldn't you take a suggestion from whomever and then add that back into the work? You got anything? You good?
I mean, I'll ask one question, I guess.
Okay. I'm not trying to force you.
No, well,
I saw you scribbling stuff.
I have questions. Some of them I think might be a whole other conversation that we need to have.
Yeah, we'll get
Or
to
I know that they're things that I struggle with, so I don't necessarily want to ask you in front of everybody.
Also fair.
But I guess for just maybe to end on this, you're dealing with so many like very serious, sometimes like tragic topics in your work, and you're putting so much. I know you're putting in 20 hours of every day into doing this, and like your labor is in the art. It's completely there. So, but I also know there's a lot of joy in your life, and I just wanted maybe to ask you if you could share like some things that make you feel really joyful, like when you're working on a piece or when it's happening.
That's
Like,
the hardest question of the night. Right? How's that? You should have started with that one. That was a little easier. Boy, joy. What a rough one. How about guilty foods? Right? That's always the best. When I'm working like this, which is most of the time, I don't think about end of day, but think about end of project, right? Because when I get home, the work's not done, I have to get ready for tomorrow. And then if you like take a break to celebrate, then I'm not saying like go and get trashed. I'm even saying like watch like Seinfeld or like do like we'll do some laundry. Like if you take your head out of it for a while, it's hard to make all those decisions again to get back into it. So just stay put. Just stay put. And let the work be the joy, right? Because you know the labor that you're putting in, you know where it's going, whom it goes to, and you were one of those people, right? That's a moment when you're allowed to include yourself if you're trying to exclude yourself. While you're making it, you're working out physically, mentally, a lot. You're trying to answer these questions, right? And that feels great. And you know that people are going to be coming in, and if you did okay, maybe they'll have a nice time. And if they do, like finding that lady in White Castle, I was good for weeks, right? Just like absolutely, I mean, her outfit was unreal. But aside from that, so pleased, you know? Because like those small pieces, that'll stay with you forever and ever.